Thank you. You can do it. Right. Should be recording. That, I think so.
At 9 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice have been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call shows we're all present. Need a motion to approve our agenda for today.
So moved.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think everybody got a copy of our minutes in our last meeting. Need a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah. Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So you guys getting them in the mail? Is it coming in time?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. I wanted to check.
Any public comment or correspondence, John?
I have none.
Me either. Brings us to the fair update.
All right, well, I'll just start it off and I'll maybe have Pete say a few things. Weather seemed like it was pretty darn good. I mean, got a little hot towards the end there, but when I was there on Saturday, it seemed like it was well attended. I don't know, we'll know more when we get a report from the fair board or whatever on how they did financially and all that stuff, but seemed like all the conditions were right for them to have a pretty good year. Do you wanna talk at all about what happened as far as stuff getting broke or
Yeah,
whatever?
there's little stuff. They caught a gate and they tore it off. So, they're paying to have it fixed. I already had a fencing company come out, give a quote and, I'm waiting to hear from them. Just have them fix it and we're gonna pass that right on to them. So other than that, we didn't have any electrical issues this year, but we added a ton of 50 amp outlets for them. So that seemed to cure that problem. Other than that, yeah, there was no big hiccups or anything, so good for them.
I guess I got a simple question. I think I talked to Rich about the day before the fair started. And he said he appreciated all the electric work you guys did. But he said, I'm still short quite a few 40 amp. And I guess I understand that, but does that make sense? to Put more 40 amps out there? I know the campers are getting, going bigger, so need more power.
Yeah,
Whatever. Oh,
well, where he wanted the ones we couldn't add is because we added so many upstream from that. And I told him, you either got to eliminate some of those to go farther down, cause for
I kind of figured.
their main stage or whatever, their big music acts.
Cause now I understand that campers are bigger and fancier
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, but
And
does it even pay for us to worry about that?
yeah, that's the only thing. We couldn't add one where he wanted it for that stage. Because I added 4 from it and they all leapfrog and I said, shit, you're too far away and you're drawing too much. We're gonna start melting wires down and.
Well, the state, I understand, but I see campers getting.
Oh yeah,
fancier.
they all wanna use that 50 amp plug and we've converted almost all of them that we can. We added 12 more just for campers this year.
That's fine.
Yeah, and in the future, if they have like a specific area there where, hey, we need like 6
Yeah.
plugs over here, we could,
Yeah.
pony up and have the power company put another meter in. Basically, our our feeds are
Yeah.
tapped, you know, so when you got a 200 amp panel, you know, as your main panel, like you can't just keep adding fifties and, you know.
You need a bigger base.
Yeah, so,
That
I mean,
green box.
right now we've got probably, how many meters are out there? You think like a dozen or better?
Yeah.
You know, we've got like a dozen electric bills we get from the fairgrounds, you know. We could add another meter, you know, there's transformers out there, the big power is out there, so
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
matter of. They would have to tap into those transformers and put another meter somewhere if we needed it, but that all costs money and if it's,
Well, and they gotta decide, is this where they're gonna
yeah,
keep it? Every year they keep moving it a little bit and shifting it, and I know they're trying to fine tune it. Be nice if they went back into the grandstands. I mean, and to their advantage now, they have that new pad out there. They can put seating there but I bet you the last 40 years now, they've moved their music around,
yeah.
so.
That answers my question, that's all.
It's been all over there,
Yeah.
yeah. What about the carnival? Were they able to use any of the power or did they all handle their own?
No, they tap onto a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was wondering, cause that one year, they had to have their own power source.
yeah, they still do for some of the rides. But yeah, they still tap into a lot of the electrical and water and everything else.
Yeah, so. And you're meeting with the fair folks today.
Today at 1 o'clock, do our walkthrough and. I mean, they pretty much know what they gotta do. And,
Yeah.
like I said, I already had the fencing company out there, cause I would like that fixed sooner than later. We kind of pieced it back together. It was laying out in the road.
Oh, man.
They caught it with sounds like a hay wagon and it was open. So they stretched the fence and then they kept going. So when it came around, it slammed shut and then just bent the posts over. There's a 4-inch post in concrete. I was like, wow, how fast were you going? But
Tractors don't stop.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I remember Tony Risch doing that.
now that was an old gate, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so we're getting a new gate. It didn't wreck our new
That was
fence.
positive.
Yeah, that was one of the ones we decided, we rarely use that gate, why we're gonna replace that, so in our fence project, we skipped that one, so. Whatever, well, that was another shiny little part of the fence again. Whatever. Is what it is. Any other questions about that?
No deal.
Alright, I just gave you a little handout there, I went to the annual funding meeting, they have that up in Wausau every year. I go whenever there's a project that we're requesting, every year we get maintenance for the snowmobile and winter ATV program. So we get maintenance funding, and I think if I were to, yeah, if you look at the sheet that looks kind of like this, that's got the you know, my scribbling on the bottom there. You kind of go down from the top, I'll just kind of walk through that a little bit, just in the snowmobile program, this is just the snowmobile side, not the ATV side. So they had a 1.3 million left over from last year. And then they basically spent 6 million for maintenance, so that pays for $300 a mile for maintenance of the however many thousands of miles are in the whole state. We've got just over 400 miles of funded trail in the county. We're in a high percentile for density of trail system, you know, we've got a lot of trails in this county. And then, so that's where that comes from. So they started out like 4.7 million in the hole, then they get their supplemental balance, that's I think they had I don't think anybody got supplemental last year, so if they spend more than their $300 a mile in the year, and I think you have to have at least 200 a mile in grooming for that, not just maintenance of the trails. So basically, if you got a good snow year and you're grooming a lot, you're gonna spend more than your $300 a mile. You can request supplemental payment to get reimbursed. Al's probably very familiar with that because of the way the trail patrol gets paid. So you make a request saying I had X amount of hours, you know, you may get refunded, 75%, 80%, depending on how many people put into the pool that year. So that's how the supplemental goes. We haven't been in supplemental for quite a few years because we haven't had much for snow. But anyway, then you go down there and they got the registration trail pass money, so that's that 4.7 million. And then they had a little what they paid out from the last year. So they had 3.8 million when they started. And then once you take out all the other stuff, I think they had 1.8 million dollars available for development. What did they say? Oh, they had a Sauk, there's some big bridge in Sauk County. It's like a 1 point some odd million bridge. They paid like 500,000 towards it last go around, and then they said they were gonna spend 250,000 on it this funding season, and then another 250 next funding season, so that they could get enough money for that big old bridge, whatever they're doing there. So that was skimmed off the top, and then they had the groomer tracking system, that's at GTS. So all the tractors that they groom with, they all have a GPS thing in it, and that reports directly to the groomer tracking system so that they know how many hours they're grooming and how many miles, and it's got a geo fence thing on it, so the tractors are, if the trail is here, they got this big of an area, and as long as the tractors are on the funded trail, then they get paid for those miles that they're on there. So like if one year a farmer says, oh no, you gotta go around that side of the field this year, and the trail was over here, if they're grooming that side of the trail, they don't update their geo fence. They're not getting paid for the grooming of the other side. So the clubs always have to keep track of what their system says they're doing, and they can go online, look at a map, and it turns red whenever they're off of the funded trail, and they can, it sounds complicated, but it's actually kind of a neat system, and once it's set up, especially when you're a little further north where the trails are through like forested land, the trails don't move generally, you're same place every year. All they gotta do is just, once it's in there, it's in there, Here it's a little more difficult, cause like I say, trails move all the time, depending on a lot of the farm fields you go across and ownership changes and stuff. So basically they had 1.3 million to play with when they started the funding meeting. And then on the back side of that, we've got a chart, and this was a bad year for funding. Just kind of, you look at the bar graphs there, those last two columns kind of says it all. We didn't have any snow. And especially up north where they normally have like a good snow year, they didn't have any snow. A lot of the trails north of Highway 29 didn't open at all last year. So trail passes were down. People a lot of times only don't buy one until they're gonna go sledding. And then the trail passes, and then the other they have their registration on there too. I don't know why they're both trail pass revenue, but anyways, the big point is it was like a couple million less than they normally have of that chart above. If you look at the 23-24 one, is 2.5 million. Year before it was, 4 million, so, and that wasn't even a great snow year, but they had a lot less money and they had a lot of requests. I don't think I gave you guys that chart, but the request for funding was way up as well. So, and based on state statute, they have a certain way they gotta fund these projects in certain categories. So first thing is, cost overruns for existing projects that they already funded. So like, you get a bridge, you got your cost estimates for this bridge, and then you put it out to bid, and nobody bids within the amount of money that you got allotted to you. So you could go back to the council and say, hey, they came in 40,000 more than we were asking before. The council generally will approve those increases as long as you can show that you did your due diligence. So those are funded first. The next category is bridge rehab, which makes sense. You don't want bad bridges out there. Well, there was a ton of applications for bridge rehab. And I think they had twice the amount of money, requested just for bridge rehabs than they had in the whole pot, you know, so it was. They weren't getting to our category, you know, the only project we had in there, a special project was just north of Waupaca here. There's Folks Brothers own some land up there where that peat bog was. They dug all that peat out of there. They're turning that into a nature reserve of some sort, for birds. Bird sanctuary, I think was what they're using. And right now the snowmobile trail kind of runs right through the middle of that. And they wanted that trail moved off to the side of their property, which means we would have to put a culvert in over on the edge of their property. I went through, got a permit and everything to do that culvert project and then applied for the funding. I think we were asking for like 11,000 something to do that, and they didn't get to our category. So they made it about halfway through the bridge rehab category and they were out of money. So they even didn't fund some of the some bridges that were condemned, you know, you can't use them. Like, you know, I guess you gotta close that trail. So rough year. It was a tough meeting. A lot of people kind of irritated that their projects didn't get funded and whatever, but just a bad snow year. Just seems like this is gonna happen more and more. So I just wanted to kind of bring it to your attention, because that is something that we do. We deal with the Snowmobile Club Association. There's 18 clubs now in the county. And some of them are both in our county and other counties. So I go to their council meetings, usually once a month, starting in September through May, I think. So we deal with the funding that comes in. We apply for the maintenance grant. Our maintenance grant will be funded. So we'll get that $300 a mile, but our culvert project didn't get funded. And the sad part about the culvert project was the landowner was like, well, you guys need to get this done or I'm gonna shut the trail off. So hopefully they'll maybe give us another year and there'll be some funding available. If not, I guess we're gonna lose a chunk of trail. That would get you into Waupaca, so.
So the clubs don't try to raise the 11,000, that's totally on us.
They can, you know, and a lot of times if it's a smaller project like that, which, you know, 11,000 is still a bunch of money for a club, you know. They can try and raise money, they might get a donation or something, or they can spend some of their maintenance money, that $300 a mile they got, but say the club is responsible for 30 miles, you know, that's a big chunk of their annual funding, you know, to try and fund that through that. And then they don't.
Is that ditch on Smiley's or is it
What's that?
is that ditch on Smiley's or Colton's? Folks Brothers want it off of there.
What's that?
Folks Brothers want it off of there, right?
They want it off of that middle part there.
Property.
They said it could stay on their
Well,
property,
it's all flooded now, everything's come up, you know,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
but the dike there that they were gonna run down was fine. It's just right now that trail comes up the side, goes over to the middle of their property, and then across an old culvert there, and then back over to the edge and up. They don't want that little through the middle. I thought that was pretty nice that they weren't just kicking us off. They were saying, well, as long as you guys stay way off to the side, we're okay, but. You know, I guess we'll do what we can. But yeah, I just kinda wanna give you a little heads up on what's happening there. I don't think, I contacted the club already and told them what the deal was and gave them this information, and they were gonna talk to the landowner and their club and find out, you know, what they wanna do. Yeah, I told them when we started this culvert project that if I'm involved, I have to do it the right way. I got a permit, you know, there's the existing culvert they go over, which is the same drainage ditch that you're gonna go over with the new culvert. It has a 24-inch pipe in it, you know, one. And so we applied to do another 24-inch pipe just downstream from that and call it good. But DNR is like, nope, you gotta have this ginormous pipe, you know, it's gotta be a 6-foot squash pipe, you know. So but they wouldn't give us a permit otherwise, you know, and the club's like, well, can we just go back and and, put a 24 inch, I was like, no, you can't, I mean, that's not a funding thing, that's a permit thing, so that's water regs says you gotta have this big culvert, so. Is what it is, when we do things, we have to do it by the book, so. That's the problem you run into. Where in other situations, maybe a club would have just went, we'll just throw it in there, And if a neighbor doesn't complain. They get away with it, so. Anyways, so that's kind of my update. Any questions about snowmobile program or anything in general? Alright.
There's just the boat launch agreement.
Okay, so. Last month we talked about the town of Farmington. They signed the agreements that we agreed to. County board chair signed those. I got them registered now. I think Mike up in Register of Deeds was gonna have those done soon. So they're on the deed. So the town of Farmington's done. I met with Brett Grams from the town of Dayton last week, and they had some questions. Not so much about the agreement that we have for Dake and Minor, but about other launches that they have. One, we've met with the town of Dayton in the past. I know when Roger was still here, we met with them. One of the ones they're mainly concerned about is the Night Lane landing there. And it's mostly a canoe kayak launch. I guess people put other sorts of boats in there anyway, but it's all slow and awake lakes up there, so. The town may be interested in trying to, they are in the process working with a couple of developer designer types to come up with a plan for redoing that parking lot and the launch. Cause right now, you get a lot of rain and stuff, it'll wash that gravel and stuff off of that parking lot right into the lake. They're trying to figure out a way to change that so that it can retain some of that and let it filter out, so you're not washing that stuff right into the lake. And they wanna redo the parking lot and everything to make it a little more so it makes more sense, and cause it just gets kind of jumbled up. You get one guy that parks crooked cause it's a gravel parking lot, then the whole thing's just messed up. So they wanna put like a guardrail in and do some kind of angle parking and have, just so it makes a little more sense and you can control the things that you can control. That launch in the past, we kind of said, we're not really interested because we can't fix the problems there, right? The main problem is it's overused on certain weekends. It gets super busy. Parking lots overflowed. They park up and down the roads. And to some people, I guess that's a problem. And it's completely surrounded by the Hartman Creek State Park. So Hartman Creek owns all the land around it, so you can't like expand the parking lot, even if you could with the wetland stuff out there, you can't do that. We suggested in the past that the town should reach out to Hartman Creek and say, hey, do you guys want this launch, and like give it to them, and then they can manage it however they see fit, but the Hartman Creek is not interested in taking that on. So what he was proposing was, not officially, none of it's official. He was just looking into, hey, we wanna come up with some options, talk about it at their town meeting, and then come back to us, if they have a request of us. If they were to redo that parking lot and launch and, basically get it up to some standard, and I think you were involved in that at some point, weren't you?
Yeah.
Get that up to standard. Would the county be interested in taking over that launch? We are doing the 5, if you count Grandview, other launches on the chain. If you were gonna charge a fee at that launch, it would make sense if it was the same, county fees, so there are some logical reasons why it would make sense for the county to manage that property, you know, would there be problems? Yes. You know, I mean, it's heavily used. If it was developed a little better, would those problems be lessened? Probably a little bit, you know? I think we don't need to obviously make any kind of decision today about that. I just wanted to bring it forward that that's what this Brett Grams with the town was talking about, was that one. In the past, we talked about Spencer Lake and some other lake. What's that?
The landing at Spencer?
Yeah, and he seemed to be of the impression that, you know, like the town's okay doing that. That's like not you know, a big enforcement issue and whatnot. It's just, we have a presence in the chain already. And if we were enforcing a fee, that'd be one thing. If a town put a fee on, how is the town gonna enforce that fee and all this stuff? And it's just it's kind of a headache for them. And you know, what do you do? And for the general public too, if you have a pass that's supposed to be good for the chain of lakes, it'd be pretty sweet if it was good for the whole chain of lakes, you know? So, I guess I'm kind of on the fence. I understand there's issues that'll come, but if the town's willing to put the effort in and throw some money at developing a sustainable launch and parking lot, I think, you know, the committee should maybe at that point consider, you know, the idea of getting into another agreement like we have with the other ones. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that may be coming. I don't know, I don't think they've fully discussed it or anything at the town level. He wanted to meet with me to take me out there and look at a few of these spots that they had issues with. And so we did. And then as far as the Dake and Minor boat launch agreements, they said they looked over them and they didn't see anything major. I mean, we didn't really change a whole lot. There was some state statutes that were referenced that don't pertain to it anymore. So we removed all that stuff out of there. And basically it's the same agreement that Farmington just did. But they don't have to do anything with it until June or something like that. It's next year that the current agreement expires. So I said, there's no rush. Farmington just wanted to get their stuff wrapped up or whatever this year for some reason. So we can do it whenever they want to. And I don't foresee them saying, oh, no, you know, we don't want you guys managing our boat launches anymore, but you know, they haven't made that decision at their board level. So that's where we're at with the town of Dayton stuff. Any comments on that or anything? No. So yeah, I think I went out there Wednesday last week, looked at that stuff. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're open to listening,
Yep,
whatever, you know,
See what they come up with.
yeah.
yep. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, you know, what a Rattler or an Ayers or one of those design companies would come up with that space. You know, how can this space be used properly and, you know, organized in such a way, you know?
You mean the Hartman, great.
What's that?
The Hartman?
Yeah, the
Oh, Lane.
night lane one.
Night lane.
Yep,
Yeah, night.
yep.
'Cause basically.
What's it called, Night Lane?
Yeah.
It's on night
That's
lane.
the road. They don't call it.
Yeah, it's called something else,
What
whatever
lake
the
is
lake.
it on?
It's right between two lakes.
Yeah, it's actually the channel between
It's a
the,
channel.
Yeah.
and
yeah,
Yeah,
Night
this is on the
Lake.
channel.
The
Yeah.
channel.
and I
There's
think
5 lakes,
if you,
all
if they were to put a fee on
That
it,
wake.
that it would reduce how much
Yeah,
it
how wide
gets
is
used,
the channel?
cause that's why everybody goes there with your kayak, cause you don't have to pay anything to launch a
Shallow,
kayak. So
only about this deep, rocky.
that's
So
pretty
big
cool.
kayaks are hard to get in and out of, cause
Yeah, and they were talking, getting one of those
launch. things.
docks like
Yeah.
we put in, you know, and I referred them to a few options for funding, like one of the greenways, you know, I was just like, that would totally qualify especially the dock thing, you know. That would totally qualify for that, and then like, pointed them towards the Wisconsin Waterways Commission, that's who all our boat launch grants come from and everything, and if a town wanted to apply for that, they're eligible, you know, because so it's just a matter, and those are 50% grants. So,
Yeah, the biggest thing there is the parking lot,
yep,
because the drainage issue is, you know, they've got all that water that comes down the hill, well, you know.
yep.
But-
Yeah, it all
They need-
runs right into the water there.
They need to do something to fix that parking lot, because it gets graded once or twice a year, but it's gravel. And the water washes gullies through it, plus, you know, like John was saying. There's no, you know, drive-in parking or drive exit, so people park any which way they want to in this half acres.
Yeah.
And they don't follow, you know, you could get many more cars in and have much greater usage
Yeah.
if you had it basically tarred and.
Yeah.
I was out there one
Designated.
time and the guy with his pickup truck that they must have launched 5 or 6 kayaks had a rack that he towed. They just pulled in lengthwise and took like 8 places other people could have parked.
Well, and the outfitters there's a couple different places that rent out kayaks and stuff. They always park right by where you go into the water, you know, and so they'll have a big old van and a trailer and, you know.
They're in and out pretty fast. They load them up and then they unload them and then they
I guess they
leave.
kind of sit there like on the busy weekends and stuff, they're kind of there, you know, cause people go and then they come back. So it ain't like they're dropping them off and picking them up on the other end. It's they kind of park there and.
It's you know, there's 5 little lakes and it's all closed, so there's one entrance, one exit.
You know,
And depending on how they rent it for what period of time and stuff, it might make some sense. But we tried to get them to stay in a certain spot, so it wouldn't block traffic.
yeah, so it's a neat spot,
Yeah, if you got a kayak or a canoe, that's a cool little place to go check out. Water's really
Paddleboard-
clear.
Paddleboarding people up
Yep.
there.
yeah, and you don't have to worry about getting run over by a
Big
you know,
ski
big old
boat.
ski boat or something, you know.
Or a wake boat.
Yeah.
And it's great for swimming, so.
Yeah.
Some spots.
So, yeah, I just wanted to make you aware that that's something that we may be approached with from the town of Dayton in the near future.
But you know, there's another landing there. There's a boat landing there. I don't know
On
who-
Marl,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, we went and looked at that one too, and you know, do we worry about that? I don't know. Yeah, he didn't seem too concerned about that
no,
one.
I wouldn't, because again, most people don't have. They use it for parking more than they do for launching,
Yeah,
and it's. You know, it's muddy down there, it's lowland, so most people in the know don't. You know, bring a boat to launch down there.
yeah, and that's kind of another one of those goofy ones, cause the state parks on the one side of the thing, and then the town owns that little right of way that's private, so you can only park on the one side of that little gravel driveway going down to the lake. So if you park on the other side, you gotta have it's no parking, but
Yeah,
you would have to have a state park sticker if you were gonna be around there somewhere, but
people don't even know that, so.
yeah, so.
It's very, most people don't even know it's there.
Yep. Yeah, until that gets found and it becomes a problem, I guess they're not too worried about it.
It's too narrow to park, so if you had somebody parking, 4 cars parking down there, you couldn't get a trailer
Yeah.
down there to
Yeah.
launch, so it's.
Yeah, when we were there that day,
It should not even be there if you ask me, but.
when we were down there that day, there was 4 cars there, but they were all just throwing some kayaks in or
Yep,
something, you
yep,
know, so.
yep.
As long as it stays like that, it's not a problem. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I guess whenever the town of Dayton gets around or feels they want to discuss those things, then they can get back to us if they need any changes to those agreements or anything, and we'll do the same thing we did with the Farmington one. Once they're okay with the agreement the way it's written and they sign it, then we'll bring it to you guys. And if you guys approve it, then it goes to county board chair to sign, and then we'll be done for 20 years. So someone else's problem. Actually, it's our problem. Okay, that's all I had for that.
Okay, bypass.
All right, now, I know I went back and looked, I was like, how long have we been talking about this, you know, like, May. So I had sent a message to our corp council and said, hey, this has been a while, since the city sent us this thing. Committee already said they're not interested in taking care of the trail. We need to do something about this relatively soon. And the response I got was, I need to talk with her, soon, and she'll give me ways to, approach the city with this, she's like, there's different ways we can do it. She suggested not talking about it a whole lot, in our normal meetings until we have our ducks in a row, but she's gonna work with me with it soon, and then we can send a response to the city in a proper way that's not gonna get us in any trouble or whatever, and then I assume that'll start a discussion, a back and forth with the city about okay, well, you guys need to take care of this, is what the city's gonna say, or we don't, and this is what we're gonna say, whatever. But she has some ideas on how to go about doing this properly, so. I guess, again, I don't really have anything to pass on other than, we've been mowing it this summer.
And we have no contract.
We don't have a contract.
That's all I
Yep.
know.
Yeah, it all goes back to that
Nothing,
handshake agreement, however many years ago
keeping your
with
feet.
Roger. So that's it.
I hope she can get it done soon because I'm being asked, and I'm remaining silent, but.
Okay, yeah, and that's,
I'm not building any credibility by remaining silent.
yep,
That's all I'm saying.
and that's, I feel the same way about,
Just completed another housing building out there, if you looked.
yep,
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I just feel like, we are maintaining status quo until we make an official, this is what we're gonna do, and our corporate council is gonna help us do that soon, hopefully. It's been I understand it's been very busy in their office, but we got stuff we have to do, so. Guess that's all I got on that.
Okay. Fairground storage.
All right, I gave you a copy of the letter, the storage letter, just so you can kind of see, this is what we're doing again. Do you want to talk about the process here now that it's started?
Sure, we got Jake Sager. He's taking appointments, started this morning at 7. He already was flooded with calls yesterday. We missed it. On here, it says anytime after the 1st, not realizing we're not really here until the 3rd. So, but I've taken a bunch of calls. I pushed them on to him, so. It's gonna be a busy year, as always. We always seem to have more calls than room. It'd be nice if we could maybe this winter work on trying to get credit cards so we're not handling so much cash, and people complain about writing checks because nobody writes checks anymore. And that's getting tough on us. We're dealing with that cash every night.
Yeah, one thing we were talking about doing is the county has the ability to accept credit cards on the little county website. So like you can pay your taxes on there or whatever. So we were looking at having a way that people could, even if it's such a thing where we just say, oh, it's gonna cost you X amount of dollars, you gotta go up on the website. Once they pay, then we get some sort of notification saying they paid,
Yeah, and they would have a receipt that way. A
Yep.
lot of times people request us to write a receipt. I just take a piece of paper and put my name and all that on. It should be a little more official than something
Yep.
like that.
So one of the other things you wanted to work on a little bit was the possibility of allowing people to pick a appointment time on there too.
Like our website, so they can go there, look at the times available. They can put their name, what they have in. We can look at that. They show up on that day and they can, if they've already prepaid, great for us. We're not handling that money and that transaction. And we can put the blocks, fill those blocks.
So do you have to use what the county already has in place to do that?
You're saying as opposed to getting our own like Square or something, you know, or do
Yeah,
that.
I know a guy it's a point of sale POS systems that my niece uses for her it's like a salon type thing. So they can go on the website, book the appointment, make the payment, get the receipt.
Perfect.
So, but if you know, if we gotta use the county system, if they won't let another system come in, but I can let that guy know that sold her that system that to come maybe come talk with you guys to show him what he's
And a
got
little
there.
background on that, like the county's right now changing their system, like the
Right.
treasurer is changing to a different system. I think they went with Paymentus before or whatever, and they're going with someone else here in a month or whatever. Paymentus has always been very clunky, hard to work with. We stopped using it up at the PTF because it'd take you 5 minutes to make a transaction on there and people get really irritated. They're used to just coming in and, you know, you know, and they're like, what the heck, you know, why do you need my email? Why do you need this? Why do you need that? It would take forever. And so we stopped going with them up at on the solid waste side up at the PTF. We went with our own payment system, you know, we're like, hey, this isn't working. We need something that's more like a grocery store, you know? And I think we got Wind River or something like that, because that company works with the bank that they deposit in Manawa with. So we went with our own system there. I don't think there's any rules against doing that, but the problem with that is, especially for like storage, is you know, it costs money to have a system like that. You know, you gotta have your little swiper and all this stuff, and all that stuff costs a lot of money. Pete knows, he's got a business, you know? So, if we can get under the county's system, you know, the county's already paying for that, you know, so that would be preferable. And hopefully this new company they're working with will be a little easier to deal with.
Well, yeah, find out if you're gonna like that system or not, and then if it's gonna work for you, great. If not, I know a guy that I can
Sure.
send over to talk to.
Yep. So that's kind of the update on that part of it. Otherwise, there's not really too much new about storage this year. I did put on the agenda, so what did I write on there? Oh, review rates. I put that on there just in case you may want to talk about that. I don't feel like we need to raise them. We just did that.
3 years in a row, and
Yeah.
this will be our first year where we're just.
Right, we did the step increases up to, you know, right now it's $10 a linear foot. We should probably review that, you know, it's like everyone else is raising their rates too, you know, so if we don't do it every now and then.
We're still half of what anything else out there is.
So, I mean, it's nice having a nice square number, but it don't really matter. So, if the committee wanted to, we could discuss that. I don't have any data for you, you know, like last time we did the comparables when we talked about rates, you know, and we went to some of the private places and a couple of the other fairgrounds that do this kind of stuff and just showed you what their rates were compared to ours. But I don't have that information for you today. So I guess if you're okay with it, we'll keep these rates for this year and then we could review it again.
Well, how about, well, when you guys get time, pull that information together and then we can start looking at.
Yeah, cause we could do
So
that
we can
anywhere
get it, yeah,
between-
so that next year, it's not a shock to everybody and you'll have time to get it out there.
Well, I do know interest rates have gone up. I know if you were building a new building, you probably have to have more. Cause your rates are higher. I understand that. Also, I think there's also that point of probably, maybe in some cases, some people are getting rid of it or economy's tightening up, so you're having less. So, you know,
You know, if you look what people are paying for storage sheds right now, this is a pretty good deal for everybody.
Yeah,
Right. And I talked to one of the guys that does the storage at the car show, Iowa car show there, and they were saying they were asking what our rates were, you know, just to kind of, you know, and we're cheaper than them. So, you know, even a pretty much the same kind of system we got, you know, where you don't get to get it whenever you want it, you know. That's the. You know, you can't compare our prices directly to like a storage garage that you rent, because then you got access.
You're wrong,
You know,
yeah.
but. You know, there's other places that do very similar storage things to us, and I think we could look in our records there to find out which places we looked at before. So there was some other fairgrounds that did it, and
I think it was out again.
you know, out of Gamey, and then I think Winnebago was doing some too, and so we had their prices. So we can pull that stuff together sometime this fall, winter, and bring it back to you guys.
So for this year, it's this.
Yeah, for this year for sure,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
for the next year, and the sooner we get the rates, it's better, cause then, you know. When people are taking their stuff out, it's nice to let them know, hey, here's what our rates are gonna be next year, you
What
know?
about, they got these outdoor, they've just fenced in areas, but they're outdoors, I mean, you know, they're still popular too, I guess, I don't know.
We've talked about that in the past. I know when McClone was on this board, that was one thing he was really pushing for was. We have a few
People just
issues.
want a fenced in area.
Without fire and ice now, we could always tuck them under the grandstands.
Right, you know, see, we always had that big race in there, and then, you know, the whole grounds is open, so we were like, you know, unless you,
Right,
like you say, put another fence in somewhere to,
right.
you know. I've always been a little leery about that. I mean, even you look at you know, the beef barn and stuff that aren't enclosed. Have we had too many problems with people messing with stuff?
No,
No, but
um,
I just feel like if you have a bunch of stuff sitting outside, you know, it's just a matter of time
for
before.
the hail that one year.
Yeah.
Had 4 or 5 units outside that took
Yeah.
a beating.
You got that kind of stuff, and if you have a big enough target, you know, eventually, you know, a big enough light, you're gonna start getting moths, you know? So you have somebody come and mess with people's stuff, it really stinks. We lost a boat motor at one time, out of the one building. There was some question on that, sheriff's department was involved in trying to figure out what happened with that.
I remember that one. I can't figure out how they got that motor.
Big old motor out of that was in an enclosed building, you know,
Yeah.
so.
If they want it bad enough, they'll get it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll gather that information and bring it back to you.
Any supervisor reports? Anybody go to anything lately?
Alright.
I just think we gotta tell Peter, thanks for, of course, John watching him, but the fair going the way it did and everybody. I heard zero complaints whatsoever, more compliments than anything, so did a good job
It
again.
looked great. The park looked great. Youth building roof project, other updates?
Alright, Pete, you wanna take that?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on, they were being held up by the steel manufacturer. Like I said, I gave him a call this morning. I'm gonna start leaning on them pretty hard. I didn't want to once we got into August, cause I'm like, oh, I don't wanna get caught between that and fair, so I laid off a little bit, but. They're gonna hear from me every day now until I get something. And they claim it's a 4-day project. They'll come in with a huge crew. And I said, that's great. Right now would be perfect timing. That building's empty. I would just as soon at the end of the day, they tuck all their stuff in the building, shut the doors. I can give them a key. That way they got access to bathrooms, power. And he said they'd come on a Monday and they'd be gone by Thursday night, Friday morning. I'm like, let's do it.
Get her done.
Yeah.
What'd you do at the Port Farm?
Oh, we
I forgot you don't have an agenda in front of you.
we got all the fence posts in, so that property is now where the highway department had surveyed it. It's all perfectly laid out. We threw some strings and put in like, I don't know, it seemed like 1 million posts, but there's a couple hundred posts, so that's all fenced in, and we brushed it a little better and pulled a bunch of the old fencing out, so it looks 1,000,000 times better. It looks like it should.
Where's the Port Farm? I'm gonna ask you.
Over by Manawa.
Yeah, Bear Lake Road.
Barely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just south of, what is that, Double B?
Yep, double D.
Yep.
I know where you're at now.
Yeah, and for years we had no real access to that. We just, we had to kind of go through the farm there, and around the barns and out through the cornfield and all that stuff, and people were requesting, access to that. How do we get there, and you can't really tell people to go through some private property to get there, so we did have a deeded access out to that. It was just never developed. So a few years back, we got some money through the capital program and put in a driveway back to that thing, so now it's kind of cleaned up and it's more official and whatever,
There's a
so.
gate and an area to walk through to get in, and yeah, we've got all the headstones back up and in a row, and it looks good.
So,
Are they over the right grades?
There's a bunch of
Yeah.
pockets when we mow that there's no headstones, so
yeah, I imagine there's a few more extras out there than you got stones, so. We do have some records in our files, supposedly it tells you what is there, but
Is what settlers or?
what's.
From the poorhouse, right?
Yeah, so there's folks that, what would be like welfare today, instead of getting welfare, they sent you to this place and you worked on a farm, So, these folks that didn't have family and whatever, they just kinda,
I think the newest headstone is from 47. The oldest goes back into the 1800s.
so gave people a place to get the help they needed and they worked out there if they're able and.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad we're taking care of it, out of respect.
Yes.
What was
Yeah.
the name of that facility?
we call it the poor farm,
Okay,
if
yeah,
you
it's
look it
that
up,
big,
that's
that
what
big
it's
house
under.
and all that.
Well, the house is privately owned.
Yeah, that's
Like an
not-
art studio or something.
Yeah.
It was.
Every 4th of July, they open it, you could tour it.
yeah, and that's worth doing. I haven't been out there, but I've heard.
So
You
is this sets back along behind that then?
Yeah,
Yep.
Along the river or something?
not quite that far
Not quite
down.
to the river. Okay.
Yeah, it's out in the middle of that field, like if you're going by that big old,
That road leads back to South Bear Lake then?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
where the third driveway, if you're coming from Bear Lake going towards like Manawa.
Yeah.
Where the third driveway from the end of that on the right. You'll see it's a long gravel, it's all trimmed, it looks like you're going right between the two fields, and then on the end, we've got some posts and some reflectors and.
Do we have
You'll
a
see it
sign up
all.
at all or
I don't think
What's
there's.
that?
a sign? Should we get a sign
We
up there?
don't have a sign, we
That
can put
group-
something up.
That group that owns that, the old, what was that, the asylum or the poor farm,
Yeah,
whatever.
the old-
The group that owns that said they were gonna look into putting a sign up, even for anything from them. They said, oh, if you guys put a driveway up, we'll maybe come up with something and put a sign out there, so. I haven't heard anything since then, but, yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to have a sign out there at
Yeah,
some point.
we should approve the design.
Yeah, yeah.
So years ago, didn't they rent that out? Didn't people live in that?
I think there were apartments at one
Yeah.
point in there, yeah.
I was there on a case.
I heard there was like a jail or something in the basement.
There's a cell in the basement,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, creepy.
You don't have Dan cutting grass somewhere, do you?
No, Dan didn't work for us this summer.
The only reason I asked for it, I came here, he was by a gas station filling up about 3 gas cans, and I said, where's he going to cut grass somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's still working with the county
Yeah.
maintenance every now and then, but no, that's. So that was the Port Farm Cemetery, and then the White Lake Dam, I threw that on there in case something changed with that. I've been going back and forth with this permit lady with the DNR. Trying to get a dredging permit to get the big mass of cattails out of the drainage ditch there below the dam. So that's a separate permit, but then you need some sort of discharge permit for the water that's gonna come with that as you scoop it out of there. And yeah, it's just, I contact this person via email and then they'll get back to me in like 3 weeks and then they won't fully answer my question and then back and forth and I can't seem to pin anything down. We thought it'd be kind of straightforward, go in there, scoop that stuff out, haul it off in a dump truck, and oh, but you can't have water draining out of that dump truck, cause then you're discharging water and blah, 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 and you need a permit for that. And if you're gonna get a permit, then you gotta have the soil samples and all this stuff, lab reports and all this stuff. Or you can do something where you put it into a dump truck and let it drain for several days, and then you can haul it off, but I don't think highway's gonna wanna leave their dump truck sitting out there, you know? It'd probably be sunk to the bottom.
Damn.
So, I don't know, I've just been going back and forth with this person, and it got kinda busy with fair and all that junk, so I haven't heard back from her, so I'm gonna call her, try and find out if I can get a straight answer or not. The last thing I asked was, could we get like an excavator out there to scoop that stuff out and set it on the shore, you know, on the bank, let it drain back into the water it came out of, and it sounds like it can drain back into the water it came out of, but can we leave it on the shore, because then you're basically excavating out of a wetland and piling it, which is a no-no with the DNR for other reasons, so I don't know, cause then we would come back later and scoop that stuff up and haul it off, but whatever, once we get an idea from the DNR, what we can do, then we gotta work with the landowner, because the main reason they own that property is hunting, you know, so we don't wanna be in there in the fall screwing up any kind of hunting, so, well, it's fun.
You know, John, when I was involved with cutting weeds on Waupaca Pond yet, back when I did it. That's exactly what we had to do. They had an elevator coming out of the lake after the cutter. And they run it up into a dump truck and they heap it just full. And then we had to leave it sit for 2 days.
Okay,
All of a sudden, it'd be down to nothing.
yeah,
Then they could haul it out, they haul it out of somebody's field. Somebody was always looking for it.
yeah. Yeah, and that's
Wasn't fertilizer or what, but they were looking for it.
kind of what.
Then
they
we
were
had to come
talking
back
about.
and take 3-4 days, I always had to leave it sit, and it drained right down to nothing, it was just.
Yeah, I just don't know what kind of volume we're talking, you know, how many dump trucks is that? I don't know, so. Seems like cattails would kind of, you know, pack down pretty good, but.
There's nothing left of it when it drained, you know.
Right, yeah,
You overload the truck to begin with, then all of a sudden it's got an empty
Right.
load on it.
yeah, and then once it's drained or whatever, then we can take it up to the PTF, or I was just gonna take it up to the PTF because they got the compost pile up there. Go right in that, you know, and it's a certified site for that, so. That's the plan, hopefully we can get something worked out here soon. Once I get a plan that's approved from the DNR for what we're gonna do, then we can work with the landowner and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do, well, how does this work with you guys? Because it's their access road along the dike, we don't own that straight in access, we would be using their access path back to the dam, so. We kind of have to get their approval and okay, cause almost everything we do there would be on their property except for right around the dam, you know, so. Yeah, just wanted to give you an update on that.
Okay, next meeting is October 1st.
All right.
Looks like that's all our business for today.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We're adjourned.
All right, 9:58, yeah, all right, let me get this thing turned off here.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, there you go.